Welcome to The Road in Between. In the book of Ecclesiastes, it says that a threefold cord is not easily broken. There's something about friends. And when you get three friends together, that bond is lasting. And that's the storyline today. I've got Kevin Roberts with me, and Kevin is going to be sharing his story with his daughter, Christie Roberts. And then we have B.B. Archer, who's going to be sharing his story of theology and his calling into architecture. And then we're going to discover how in the world the two of y'all met for mission. We look forward to sharing these stories with you on The Road in Between.
Thoughts keep running through my head as I walk this road with nothing ahead. The sun beams down on my face as I walk this road that leads to amazing grace.
The Road in Between with Tom Sykes is sponsored by John O'Neill Johnson Toyota, CRM Companies, Archer Architecture, Mitchell Signs and Imprints, Glass Incorporated, Benefits Management Group.
Today I am absolutely delighted to welcome Kevin and Christie Roberts today to Road in Between. Kevin, thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you, Tom. It's been a journey, and you and your family have been a very big part of that journey. And thank you for inviting us on your show. And it's been a good show so far. So thank you.
You're welcome. Well, we're in Christie's room, and it's bright colors, full of life, and as just as Christie is, kind of walk us through Christie's story and how it all began.
Well, of course, she was born. We were just very excited and very blessed, and as most parents are. And about a year into it, we realized, something just wasn't quite right with her, and we knew there was something that she was special. We could tell there was something special about her. And when she was about 2 years old, she was diagnosed with cerebellar ataxia. And cerebellar ataxia is it affects all your motor skills, your eye-hand coordination, balance, things such as that. But in her case, she had a progressive form of it. So as years went by, she got a little worse, and a little worse, and a little worse. And as you know, when I met you, she could walk and run and play, to today where she's in a wheelchair. But what brought us to Meridian to meet you in the first place is when she was 5 and her sister Laura was 13, their mother passed away. So it was a very, very challenging time, very, very difficult for all of us. But and that's where our family really got closer, and that's when we did find God did come into our lives. Sometimes it takes the worst moments to get you to that point, and that's what did happen.
You have decided, though, that this wheelchair is not the end of the line at this point.
No.
You have had something happen that has turned you a little bit on this road in between. Tell us about that quest for finding maybe something out there to help Christie.
Well, for years, ever since I've learned that she had this disease, I just haven't ever given up on finding, because all these years she had never been diagnosed. Now they gave her cerebellar ataxia, but that's just the symptoms. That's not what her disease is, and they really, to this day, still do not know why she's the way she is. And it's unknown cerebellar ataxia. Of course, unknown, they don't know what it is. And so, and it's progressive. So I was just would not accept the fact that this is the way it's going to be. And I've looked and looked, and through the years.
You went to Emory University?
I've been to Emory in Atlanta, and of course, a great, wonderful facility, but they had no answers.
And that was the head of Ataxia that was headquarters
That's
for the whole
right.
country.
Headquarters in the United States for research and everything for ataxia. And of course, they had no answers. In Jackson at UMC Medical Center, been going there for years, had no answers. And
John
each
Hopkins?
time-
Didn't you go to John?
John Hopkins, yeah. And when I got back from John Hopkins up in Maryland, you know, he's a great, wonderful doctor, but it's still just a very disappointing trip. And there again, I opened to God and I said, God, please, just give me some kind of vision. Give me something. Just give me the knowledge I need to know where to look. It wasn't a matter of minutes, you know. I said, hey, I know what I'll do. I'm going to get on the internet and research in other countries, in which I did. And everywhere I checked, China, Europe, Malaysia, everywhere. And every time I get to a certain point, it kept sending me to this place in India. It's called Neurogen in India. And I said, I'm not going to India, you know. Go anywhere but India. But every time I checked, like China, it'd send me to India. And Europe, India. And I said, well, you know, there must be something to this India thing. So, and I did. And I got a number of websites and researched it and done. And I just could not get in my head, why aren't they able to do this and we're not?
And what do they do over there?
What they do is called adult stem cell therapy. It's nothing like the embryonic stem cells. It's totally different. They've been successfully doing it for 5 years now. And they actually take bone marrow from your hip, and then they take the cells that they need from the bone marrow, re-inject it through their spinal fluids, and these cells somehow know where to go. And then the therapy part comes in, just what you see here. And in this room, this is her exercise room. This is where we do therapy every night.
This is where you train the cells.
Train the cells. That's right. These cells are like a brand new born baby. They got to develop, and then they got to be trained. So that's what we do pretty much every night.
All right, so she went to India. She had the treatment.
Mm-hmm.
How long was the treatment? How long were you there?
Well, the first time we went, it was we were there for 10 days. And you did like 3 days of study, MRIs, to blood work, to, you know, to finding out whatever they needed to find out for about 3 days. And then they did the therapy, the stem cell procedure. And then we were there for a few more days that they did exercises and showed me how to, what they wanted me to do when I got her home, what type of exercises, how to do it, what to look for. And what we do is I'll video her in stages, and I'll send them to them, and they'd send me something back saying, okay, that looks good, now you can do this. So, you know, they've been working real closely with us, and we developed a pretty good relationship. Those are the nicest people, and very wonderful, very kind, caring, loving people, and they just want to see people like Christie get better. There was a lot of people over there getting a lot of help.
From all around the world.
All around the world. We got some friends now from Malaysia, UK.
And you've been back again.
Went back for the second treatment. Great results. Great results. They redid all the tests, and she had a little over 50% increase in her brain activity, which is, according to them, was way off the charts for good. And a normal is like 27, and she had over 50, so that was great. She, according to them, she's very well ahead of schedule, so we're doing real well. It's about takes about 2 years to really get the full effect of this. So, and we're thinking of a third trip, but I think we're going to wait a little while and see what these first 2 treatments does, you know, how it turns out, and if we need to go again, we will.
Very good. Well, the two of you have shined light for us on what do you do when you go from discovery to diagnosis to disease. That's not the end. That there is hope out there.
There is hope.
But it took you to really explore that. And as a father, you've inspired so many of us, Kevin.
Thank you.
With that incredible energy you've got to not only keep your business going, but also to keep your family going it's
Well, you know how that's possible? Friends, family, and community. My friends and you and all my other friends have been so supportive. The church, the community, and her school, they treat us great. They really take care of Christie, and family, and all of it. It takes it all.
Paul wrote in the description of love is patient and love is kind. And the two of you have learned that, hadn't you? Being patient. Chris, you've had to be patient with your daddy so many times.
Absolutely. I have lost my patience many times, and she looked at me and says, "Daddy, you've got to remember it takes time."
How about that?
Stick around. The Road in Between will be right back.
Hello, I'm Neil Johnson with John O'Neill Johnson Motor Company. We offer Toyota, we offer Hyundai, BMW, and Mazda.
You can take it beyond the road and go out and have an adventure. You can go hunting, you can go fishing, kayaking, bicycling. Take them all out on the road in between.
Some of the great ones for that, Tom, are the Toyota Tundra, Toyota Tacoma, Toyota 4Runner, Land Cruiser is another good one, the Toyota Sequoia. They're great for the outdoors.
You come by and see you.
John O'Neill Johnson Motor Company, a name you can trust, products you can depend on.
We're back with The Road in Between with Tom Sykes.
City Hall, of course, is a classic Beaux-Arts design. The original architect, P.J. Krause. And this came from the White City, which was produced in 1893 in Chicago, Illinois, which was the World's Fair at that time. And it's what spawned from 1893 till 1935, the construction of public edifices all over America in a classic style. And so this is one of them right here. All of the moldings, all of the pieces, the filigree and all that you see up top, approximately 65% of all of this was lost. It was so decayed when we got to it that this was all replaced by replicated work. But this is actual white terracotta. Boston Valley is one of the only two left in the country that does this kind of work. And the other one's not doing well, it's out in California. And they continue to supply most of the work for both modern and historical edifices. So one of the great joys in doing this building was the variety of people of such great talent that we got to work with. Nationwide. And
Come in on the train.
Yeah. That's right.
Terracotta came in on the train?
No, it came in by 18-wheelers.
Okay.
But,
All right, so this was decayed, dark.
Yeah. And it was covered with, 100 years of soot. I mean, you're talking about today's environment. I mean, a lot of this terracotta was pitted when you got up to it. And it was rotting behind because all of this was originally tied. The structural fabric behind it that tied everything together to the steel had just disappeared because it was iron that, because of water that penetrated into it over a long period of time, it just disintegrated and was gone. And the building was actually kind of imploded on itself. It was just there. But as we began to take out big pieces, the structural fabric behind it was gone. So we came back with stainless steel pieces that will be there for a long, long time, long after our ancestors have gone. So, and like the glass, you see the sunscreen here, which that's all out of iron, cast iron, and the glass that's in between it. And man, I mean, it took them 6 months to clean that and to get it replaced. The light fixtures we had to take down and We had to have them cleaned and relamped and stored until towards the end of the job when they were reinstalled. All of the windows that you see are actually made of mahogany.
Okay.
That's right. And this is a national landmark building, so we had to follow the guidelines and directions of Archives and History, the Mississippi Department of Archives and History, which we did. And a man named Dick Hudgens, who is an architect in Selma, Alabama, preservation architect that I work with a lot, just finished redoing a Catholic church in Columbus with him. Dick is a very talented man that helped lead the way on the historic fabric side. And so these windows are, like I said, are made of mahogany, white painted on the outside, and then the stained and sealed wood on the inside.
Now let's go inside and take a look at that.
Okay, let's do that. Now, what's cool is as I stated earlier, in the late 40s, the City Meridian installed an elevator over here, and they tore out this portion of the building. And so we came back and did this. Well, my structural engineer, as he looked at how this was composed and placed together, this one is a duplicate of that, just a opposite mirror image. He didn't know how this was standing. We didn't have any of the drawings existing drawings we had didn't really show. He couldn't figure it out. So this is actually, the structure underneath it is totally different from that, because he wasn't sure how that was standing, but it's been standing for about 100 years, so it's just fine.
I think we'll go with this side. Let's
And
take a
you
look
see
up
these
here.
columns?
Yeah, the columns.
Now, this is a unique story. These columns are not marble. It's called scagliola. And scagliola is a form of plaster that was created under the artisans who worked on the Medicis in Italy in the Renaissance. They were running out of the money to be able to afford marble. And so they went to the artisans of that time and they said, create me some marble that didn't marble. And they came up with scagliola plaster. Well, in today's world, those columns cost more than if they were made from marble.
They do.
They do, they do. That the public spaces of this community matter because it's representative of our people.
It's relationships.
And it's all about relationships, and what a fine place to conduct business on behalf of the community.
Stick around. The Road in Between will be right back. In today's world, where most businesses and corporations' main mission is to simply make profit, CRM Companies differs itself by focusing on being successful in a way that also promotes growth and prosperity in the community. CRM Companies isn't simply a commercial development and management company. They create opportunities, they create jobs, they maximize the potential for growth and development of a better community, all while still providing great services and outstanding customer relations. Learn more about CRM Companies and their mission today. Visit crmco.com. We're back with The Road in Between with Tom Sykes.
We are here at the Road in Between. I got my dear friend, B.B. Archer. B.B., thank you for welcoming us into your home with Sally. Thank you, Sally, for letting us be here with y'all.
Absolutely.
We're glad to be with you, and today we are going to be talking about the roux of relationships.
That's right.
You are a chef. You're not a cook, you are a chef. I claim you are a chef.
Yeah.
Tell us about how it all began.
Well, you know, I went to school in Lafayette, Louisiana in 1965, and it's the land of Cajuns. Mm-hmm. And when I first went to school down there, a great number of the people still spoke the Cajun language. And those that didn't had a thick Cajun accent. And it's a wonderful world, a wonderful culture, you know, full of food and music and good times. And I had a friend of mine whose parents were rice farmers. And they had a few thousand acres out in the area of Crowley, Louisiana, which is southwest of Lafayette. And on the weekends, Mr. David had lots of sharecroppers that, worked the land. And on the weekends in the spring, all of their families and all of the David families would gather on Friday afternoons, all day Saturday, Saturday night, and Sundays. And in the spring, we would maybe go water skiing at the Intercoastal Canal, and we would come over to Placide's parents' house and out in the area. And so when we would be driving up about 100 yards away, you could just smell the food.
Oh, yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
and you're
Right.
a college student, you just salivating. And we would get there, and the people were doing a whole variety of things. The mamas and the grandmamas were shelling peas and vegetables and working on couillons and stews and étouffées and all sorts of things. And the men were playing horseshoes and bourrée and betting on everything. And we would come in and just soak up the culture and enjoy the people. And when I was growing up, my dad wasn't a hunter, so I played all sports, but I never hunted. So as my friends would be sitting around talking with all of them, because that's a big hunting world down there, duck and the whole bit. So while they were doing all that, I'd venture over to where the pots were and where the food was cooking.
Yeah.
I'd follow my nose, and smell it. And so I'd talk to them, and I'd ask how they did what they did, and they were very patient with me, very kind. And so I began to learn. And by the time I graduated and came back home, I was a bachelor, and so I thought I would start putting my own hand at trying out to learn how to cook food. And so, just like anybody else, I had a lot of failures, but you throw it out and you start over.
Well, I know through the years we've talked about this roux of relationships. Now, what is a roux?
Well, it's really just flour and oil, and that's all it is. And you can cook it to a golden brown, which is great for gravies and étouffées. And an étouffée is really just means like smothered in a gravy. And that's the base of the étouffée. That's the base of the gravy. That's the roux. And generally when you make gumbos, you make a roux. And it's the base. It's what forms.
Well, it's like relationships, though.
That's right.
You cultivate relationships. It takes a long time. I like that verb, cultivate.
Yeah.
You till the soil, you work it, you stir it. You stir those relationships, you build them, you grow together. And I know through your life that I've gotten to know you, you went through a time in your life where you almost passed away.
That's right.
And you learned a lot through that.
I did.
And in your time of waiting, you went from being really active to all of a sudden having to be homebound for a long time.
For a
you
long
learned
time.
a lot. And so I introduced you to a good friend of mine named Walter Brueggemann.
Oh, boy.
During that time, because all you could do was sit home and read. And you read this book called The Land. And you and I have had great conversations about this theology of the metaphor of land. And it really has shaped our friendship because it's about land as gift. Right. And it's a promise that God gives us, but it's also a challenge because once we get the land, for some strange reason, we begin to think we deserve the land. We own the land. It's ours, right? And it reminded me of when you almost died, you had to kind of do a reflection and say, life really is gift.
You learn and things change and you see that, you come to realize it's you. Your dad can't always be there. Your best friend can't. You've got to jump in and do things yourself, and you have to experience all those things. Well, some things came easy and some things didn't. And it was like, I think most people, regardless of your background, there are good times, there are bad times, and there's a lot of in-between times, that road in between. Mm-hmm. And so, when illness came to me and it almost took my life, it was totally, I didn't have a clue. It was unsuspecting. I look back now in hindsight and go, there were maybe some clues if I had recognized it, but it was like I got hit by a 18-wheeler and just run over. And so what happens is when you are taking out of the so-called game of life, where you are a player to one degree or another, when you're no longer a player, it changes everything.
You're healthy again.
That's right.
You're robust. You're back.
You know,
You're
I'm
cooking.
back. Right.
You're celebrating life, Sally, and you, great marriage, and everything's going well. But I know it's tempting to kind of lose memory. And part of Israel was they lost their memory. They got into the promised land and they forgot the Exodus.
That's right.
They forgot the manna, the daily manna, and the
40
quail
years
at
in the
night.
wilderness.
They forgot it. Generation died, and
right.
they began to think they owned it, right?
Right.
And then as a result, they became landless. And in fact, they were better landless than they were landed.
Yeah, isn't that funny? That sometimes we're at our best when we have less, and when we have to struggle, because we focus and we prioritize. And then, you know, like you say, we often prove to be at our best when that happens. And then your whole perspective changes. And so when the next time goodness comes, and, you know, goodness doesn't mean material wealth. What it means is a spirit and a roux of relationship with your Lord and Savior and with your friends and your fellow Christians. Yeah. And anything else from this old world that comes about from it is lagniappe. That's the Cajun's word for something a little extra, just a little bit extra.
Very good.
And so, you know, it's all quite curious and mysterious, and yet, as your perspective changes, your heart does too, and that's where everything goes from.
Well, we're glad you're back.
Yeah, me too, bro.
Let's have some
Me
lagniappe.
too. Yeah, let's have some of this good food that
Let's
we've been
do it.
cooking here.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank
All
you.
right,
Let's
thank
go.
you. Let's do it.
Stick around. The Road in Between will be right back.
Award-winning, quality, experience. Glass Incorporated's expert team can handle single window panes to entire high-rise buildings. Whether you need storefronts, glass replacement, mirrors, or shower enclosures, no job is too big or too small. Glass Incorporated, your commercial and residential glass experts. Locations in Meridian, Foley, Alabama, and the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
We're back with The Road in Between with Tom Sykes.
Here's Tom Sykes with a Hush in the Rush moment.
Oh, hello. You caught me here. I was doing a little shopping and I came across this Pledge furniture spray, and I looked on the back of it because this is an old classic, and I like to read what they say. This says, Pledge helps you quickly and confidently bring out the best in your furniture because it dusts, cleans, and shines. It reminds me of the spiritual life. God comes into the very dust of our lives. He cleans us off in order for what? So that we can shine. God doesn't like us to be dusty and filthy and dirty. And the way God does that, He doesn't do it from a distance. God comes close through Jesus Christ with His hand of mercy, and He wipes us clean so that then we can shine. Rise and shine, for the glory of the Lord is upon us. A lot of us rise, but very few of us shine. Are you interested in shining in your life? Then invite God to spray the Holy Spirit upon you and let Him make you clean. He's doing that for me. He can do that for you. The good news is we got to keep doing that, though. It doesn't last just one time. And so when you think about the pledge that God has for us, God promises us to be our God and come into the dust of our lives. He came through the dirt and the dust at the beginning of time and through His crucifixion and into His resurrection. This is Tom Sykes for another Hush in the Rush moment on The Road in Between. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on The Road in Between.
The Road in Between would also like to thank these fine sponsors. Closed captioning is brought to you by BMG, Benefits Management Group.
I'm on my way. I can't wait to see the brighter day. to see the brighter day. I can't wait to see the brighter day.